Hi, everyone, and welcome to GCCX Summit. I'm sure you're having a good time. And what we have today as a part of this evening special is Lounge Special. And the very reason, in fact, when we were crafting this whole agenda for GCCX Summit, we came up with this particular lounge special was one to have this theme, and I'll talk about this theme being very strategic and very germane for the GCCs, which are looking at creating a vantage position of their own, and also having the right leader to talk about this particular theme because uh, it takes something to talk about innovation and transformation in GCCs. And that's where we have Debashish Banerjee by virtue of introduction. I'm sure you know Debashish Banerjee. I mean, I have a privilege of knowing Deba, as he's fondly known in the analytics AI circle, across from last almost about 6, 7 years, and must tell you, uh, during the sidebar conversations and many of our dinner conversations we've exchanged, he's got a perspective which is unique, which is novel, and not only anecdotal but a bit provocative as well. And this is exactly why we felt, I think, Deba would be the right person to have this particular session. Uh, Welcome, Deba, to this particular session, the Lounge Special.
Thank you, Sameer. Appreciate you having me here.
Wonderful. So, Deba, this whole aspect of reimagining innovation and transformation in the GCCs uh, have not been talked about much in the forums. We were doing some kind of study looking at different summits, events, conferences which have happened specifically around global capability centers or shared service centers. And I was actually disappointed because many of the themes, topics, agenda items were very, very, I would say, transactional, if I may. But good part is, and since you are plugged in more than anyone else, it's about how GCCs have traversed over the years in terms of not only becoming cost arbitrage center to kind of creation of new capabilities, and now today they are being touted as the next innovation and strategy hubs altogether. Now, the first, I would say, aspect and the perspective I want to take from you and would like to take your opinion is about this whole conundrum around large companies, uh, companies which have been established for multi years, kind of a thing, conglomerates, kind of a thing, or companies which have been there for quite some time. The CXOs and boards over there often have a struggle to trigger an innovation agenda or a charter. They craft that, but when it comes to kind of, let's say, triggering that, executing that, it's a huge issue altogether. On the other side, the digital native, AI led enterprise, as we call it today, have an inbuilt mechanism of innovation built in. I mean, it's a part of their, I would say, DNA and operating rhythm, which gives them enough competitive advantage. Now, to kick off the proceedings, I would like to take your view. What the what should be done by the traditional companies to change or the reset this entire challenge?
Big question. Thank you for that, Sameer. I feel the most important and the most the critical piece is to actually define what would you want to call innovation as well. What happens in most of the big companies is that when the CEO announces that I want to be the disruptor and want to be the most innovative out there, it creates a hype as well within the company, and especially large companies. And then what happens is everybody sort of jumps onto the bandwagon. And it is very important that we don't forget the classic framework that came from McKinsey, and almost everybody uses it now, is the 70-20-10 framework on horizons. That is there, and we need to be very carefully crafting that and using that as well. What it says is basically your horizon is divided into three sets: horizon 1, 2, and 3. One being the core, then second is the adjacent, and then the third one is the transformational one.
Hmm.
The way to look at it, the very simply put, the way I see this is, your core is basically a technology that is known to the world and known to you as well. You just need to adopt it. You need to spend 70% of your time and energy and everything else towards that, because that's like known. And your IT teams, your transformation teams, your business teams can very easily make use of that as well. These are short term horizons as well, from a year and the time standpoint. The second one, the way I look at it, is that the technology is known to the world, but it may be new to you as an organization. And 20% of the effort should be spent on that, because there is that technology that is already being solved for. The platform is ready for you to be leveraged. It's just that it is not there in your organization. So how do you build the capability around that, and so on and so forth. The third one is the horizon 3, longest term, 5 years plus horizon, is where the technology is new to the world and certainly new to you as well. So you would become the market leader should you adopt this. 10% of your time and focus and energy should be put into that, because otherwise you will become obsolete very soon without you sort of realizing it. The challenge that I have seen is that 10%, because that's the most important, critical, everybody wants to jump the bandwagon, takes over the entire hype cycle. And therefore all your concepts on fail fast and this and that just gets very multitude part to it, right? And if you can focus on your 70-20-10 kind of a rule, and where you need to focus most of your energy, where you need to bring in new experts to really make a change, those kind of things, if we look at it, then that becomes extremely critical. Just the two elements that I want to highlight also that I have observed. One is the stability, especially the 10% and the 20% that we are looking at. One is the stability. It's not only the stability of the direction from the global teams, but also stability at GCCs, right? The leaders who are defining it, the leaders who are sort of driving it. You have to have the direction for some time, because your horizon 3 is all longer term. And if every 6 months, every 1 year things change, or the direction change, or the leader changes, then that's something that will not go as well. And the second element that I want to highlight is you have to really, especially for the 70 and the 20, you have to think about a nice balance that you need to do between your alignment and your execution. Because you see, these are all, innovation takes time. There is no, doubts on that. Now,
Absolutely.
if there are business leaders who want to innovate, and there's an innovation team that brings in the capability and the new disruption in terms of technologies in it, then do you first spend a lot of time to align, and then you start your execution? Because then obviously adoption is very good at the end of the day, because you're all aligned, but you just lose time. And innovation is like a race, right? So you lose that race overall. The second opinion you could have is just the innovation team can come and build something, and you don't worry about alignment. You say, okay, now I'm ready with the product, go and use it. The thing is that you will be fast enough, but then your adoption becomes a little bit tricky, especially in large companies as well. You know how the business leader want to be like involved and be there from the beginning. So it's that there's no one size fit all, but it's that model that you want to adopt that will work for your team, for your culture. That's the most important thing to look for, especially in large companies.
And very aptly said, this whole piece around what you mentioned about this having an aspiration and then kind of looking at this whole aspect of execution thing together, and alignment as a part of the framework. What you talked about is important. Let me extend that conversation, and this is pivotal. And specifically, we have a lot of audience who are actually leading GCCs, who are running large, I would say, engagements in GCCs today. Now, if we look from a lens of CEOs today, specifically chief executive officers, there is a maniacal focus around growth and scalability. And at the end of the day, top line matters. That's bringing the moolah, actually. How do you think innovation strategy could be a kind of a, let's say, does one let me ask you this: does innovation strategy has a role to play in the growth of the organization, and if yes, how it should be embedded within the enterprise charter to kick off that growth phase?
Oh, 100%, 100%. We innovation is for the top line, and obviously for scale and growth, this is one of the key components that one need to think about. You have been talking about this element of GCC as well. So let me take both the aspects. One,
Sure.
obviously, the innovation charter has to look for the top line, especially for the 20% and the 10% transformational piece, not incremental innovation piece or operating excellence and all of that, which by the way is super critical, super important. It's the structure, as I spoke to you about, is the structure that you keep. Some teams keep both together and manage it that ways, or some keeps it separate and manage it that ways. But if I talk about the 20% and 10%, you are investing as a market leader. Now, when you are investing in the technology, you are creating a data asset or a technology asset or a platform as an asset. So clearly, you need to focus on, if you are investing so much money, you need to focus on the top line. There is no other metric in my mind that we should look at. We should be
Yeah.
completely looking at the top line. However, we need to be very, very careful that is the business ready to change its model should any of the top line does result in some intellectual property, right? So the
Yeah.
innovation teams focusing on those top line have to think about, okay, is the solution becoming my intellectual property, my meaning the organization's intellectual property, and will that change the business model? So a retail company have to become a data company as well if you have owning up a data asset. A pharma company might have to become a medtech or a data company or a technology company if you are investing in such an asset and platform by yourself. You can always choose to draw that through an ecosystem. I'll come and touch upon that a little bit. But if you are investing on those areas, you think about your intellectual property, you think about your business models, and
Hmm.
say, should any of this intellectual property does come out from here, then I will be able to take my top line from whatever X today it is to 10% or a Y as a number. So clearly that's the focus. Now, some companies might think that, hey, we are not a technology company or our core business is something else. And you decide that I will help build the ecosystem around me so that then I can leverage and have some strategic partnership between them so that they build up. Like when I said they, a technology company who is not the core business that you are in, but you will leverage that technology with their help. Sometimes you have to build the ecosystem because it does not exist. Sometimes you have to just latch on to an ecosystem that is upcoming and growing. And then you say, how do you partner and how do you take it forward? I mean, a classic example is like quantum computing or a metaverse or whatever,
Hmm.
right? A retail company, a pharma company, an FSI company may not have all the appetite to really build the hardware on quantum or create the metaverse platform that is needed. So are you helping build the ecosystem for your specific area of focus, or are you keeping your eyes and ears open and building a strategic partnership so that you build a solution that has a competitive advantage using some of these technologies as well?
So,
Or as I said, first you can build the
so
technology.
this is awesome, Dev, and I think we are going in a very good direction, and that's the reason I wanted to chime in and maybe kind of take one more view within this, which is
Sure.
about this whole piece around. So when parent companies as GCCs are sitting on deciding the innovation or the transformation charter, Uh, I want to take your views how this should happen because at the end of the day, not many GCCs today are still aligned with the parent organizations in terms of working together on the innovation transformation. Of course, it could also be due to the fact about the maturities of the GCCs or this whole piece around stakeholder management. But assuming there is an alignment and the parent companies and GCCs are sitting together to decide the innovation transformation charter, give us some view one how this should happen,
Sure.
b what portion of that GCCs should be taking to ensure that holistically the innovation charter and strategy is well aligned all across.
Brilliant. So I like to give that as an analogy. One of the
Sure.
one
And
of
we were
the
waiting for your analogies because knowing you it comes through the conversation. Please go ahead.
Sure, sure. One of the analogies that I have drawn upon on this innovation culture, especially true for GCC, which sort of acts like a support function in many ways for the global teams, is this bicycle strategy that I call it. So you can imagine a picture where somebody is trying to ride a bicycle, and trying to learn a bicycle, and there is this person from behind who is helping, holding. So you can imagine that, picture. The person running the bicycle is the business leader or the unit that wants innovation in their teams. The new innovation is the bicycle that you have, and the person from behind is your innovation team. Now, this strategy has three salient features.
Sure.
First and foremost, and very ironical, that you don't start learning this bicycle without the person from behind, but the entire aim of this is to get rid of the person from behind. And that's exactly what I meant by saying the first salient feature is to develop an ecosystem, is to develop KPIs so that how quickly, how efficiently, how accelerated manner your innovation team can become redundant and you can ride the bicycle by yourself. That's the kind of metric that one needs to think about, and you need an ecosystem to help and partner.
Brilliant.
That's number one. The second, and I say this passionately as a father of two daughters who have taught their daughters on how to run and ride a bicycle. You can give hundreds of examples. You can bring a shiny colored bicycle. You can tell them, tease them that all your peer friends know how to ride a bicycle, therefore you should run, or whatever. You can do whatever you want. But it is always the best time is always when your kids are whining to learn the bicycle. That is the time when within hours they pick up and they are on their toes. The second salient feature I see is the priority has to be decided by the businesses. Whenever the innovation team starts to decide a priority, I think adoption becomes a big challenge as well. So one way to do that is you do a partnership where 50-50 investment is made by the business teams, because they don't know whether this technology will fly or not, but they know that the impact will be for them. Therefore, there's a skin in the game. And the innovation team who understand the technology and is trying to push for. Therefore, you own up and put some skin in the game. So that's a 50-50 kind of a model that you can, or any percentage model that you sign up for, where then that becomes the priority is decided by the business teams. And that is how you start to work on any of the, any of the system. The
Great.
third, and I say this very honestly on any of the digital piece, which is true for bicycle as well, nobody has learned how to run a bicycle without falling. So
Mhm.
falling will be a part of the process. I think the innovation teams can bring up the governance around how do you, if there is a fall, how do you bring back up on the seat, adjust a little bit, dust yourself, and move along as well. So this is the three-pronged strategy that GCCs could take, which becomes like a support engine to the global teams.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we wanted. Actually, a kind of a playbook and do-it-yourself kind of a, let's say, piece, which absolutely came from you. And you're right. Actually, this whole piece around fail fast, scale up quickly is the rhythm of the organization. Linking this thing, and Deva, I want a very quick view, because this is a very, I would say, pertinent. Whenever we're talking about innovation, it either disrupts or resets the culture.
Yeah.
And today, culture is the DNA. I mean, no one wants to kind of upset or really change the culture unless there is a drastic need to do that. Now, talking about innovation per se as a theme, how do you think this whole aspect of alignment with culture and innovation should come together? I want a
So
very quick view on this.
absolutely. I think two very important pieces to this one, Sameer. One is, and both of them are very abused words as well. One is a psychological safety. Okay. I know almost every company uses it now, but the real essence is on the innovation teams, where some employee is trying to put forward an idea. They don't know whether this will work or not work. Organization is putting in bets and money around it. What if that fails? How do you treat those individuals when it comes to performance management? It's super critical to have that cleared and figured out. And by the way, again, 70-20-10, it has to be for those 10% and 20%, not for what I've seen is the same hype gets over. Oh, I was doing some innovative work and it might fall into the 70%. Then execution is a problem, and you need to have the similar kind of blame structure or a performance structure instead of otherwise. So one is, I will say, a big aspect to that is psychological safety. And the other aspect I want to touch upon is this fail fast model. If you ask a lot of organizations, they say, okay, what do you mean by fail fast? And most of the time I have seen this answer, oh, it's okay to fail. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's what it says. Innovation, that the thing is, if you have to fail, then you are better off failing fast. That does not necessarily mean that it's okay to fail. So keeping that aspect and the culture in mind, I think these two sense from people and organization side would be the most critical in my mind.
Great, great. Now this is going great, but we have a paucity of time there. But I want to take the last question, and I want you to be prescriptive. This whole summit from 3i is all about GCCs because we felt it requires a very nuanced approach when it comes to the GCCs, and it should not be clubbed as a separate, or rather with other industry segments. Now, specifically, we've all realized, and it's absolutely now a reality, that GCCs, specifically from India, are a force to reckon with. Now,
Absolutely.
you've been playing a very critical role in terms of heading innovation strategies for Novartis GCC. Now, as a prescriptive kind of a, let's say, mode of, I would say, your take, how do you think GCCs should start driving more innovation and transformation for the parent companies?
Brilliant, and I think it is very very critical. In fact, I will suggest a provocative thing. Is it time for us to not call ourselves GCCs? And I believe the capability centers is a great name to have, but then are we only thinking the capability, or are you actually impacting the top line of the company, and have you matured enough or not? So each company will have at their maturity level, and it is important that you play to your strength and where you belong today. So there is no one size fit all, but depending on where you fit in. Now I'm only talking about those GCCs who has really matured. They understand the business, they understand what drives the top line, they understand market very well. In those cases, GCC should completely own up, in my mind, the innovation strategy for the global teams. And one of the reasons I say this is because innovation is almost like playing bets, right? Like a poker game of yours, right? Where you put some, blind, you play an ante and a blind, and then you see if you win at the end of the day because you are investing in some of the technologies. Now, where do you want to sit? The most optimal place would be you want to sit where there is a minimum bet that you want to play, but there is no max limit. And I think GCCs comes in very, very handy. I mean, the cost structure that you can, think of, you're playing bets at a lower cost, but your results are almost the same. That's one. Second, because, innovation needs collaboration. And almost all these mature GCCs are acting as a microcosm of the global company here in India. So
Very true.
therefore, the collaboration under one roof, everybody is sitting there. You have your business leader, you have your finance team, you have your, you name it. So you can prepare a business case and you can continue. You have your IT teams and disruptive, like capabilities team and all. And the third and the last point I want to highlight is India is known for agility and resilience as well, which sometimes the global companies, especially mammoths, elephants, it takes a lot of time to turn around, whereas GCCs can show the agility if you have to switch over or do something else in the mid course as a correction, because innovation is never like one straight jacket. So those are my 3 points why absolutely it makes sense for us to do this from India.
Absolutely, and you rightly said that GCCs have that agility to pivot or flip very very fast for the parent companies, and that's exactly when I sum it up, Deba. And this is, I think, for our audience, ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what happens when you bring a hard hitter as a lounge special guest. I was anticipating Deva to wear a consulting hat, and he came out with the frameworks, analogies, playbooks. That's what he did. I was also anticipating Deva to be provocative and prescriptive, which is what it did. So a lot of nuggets, what happened in last 20 plus minutes, you can actually take in your respective GCCs and start kind of going about implementing and executing it. And that's something which is what I call often, or rather not often, comes in when you start understanding the experience, or what I call the pedigree, what the person brings to the table. And that's what Deba is all about. Reimagine GCCs in terms of the lens from, I would say, innovation and transformation. You're watching Lounge Special. Deba, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the kind of perspective, strategic perspectives you brought to the table. That's exactly what we wanted. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate
Thank you, Sameer, for having me here. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
it. Likewise. Thank you so much.